Good morning, everybody. It is November 10th, 2023. Yep, it's already November. We're moving along. This is Real Estate Talk, TGIF, episode 283. And that is also 280 weeks in a row. We have been doing this fine broadcast, more than 5.5 years. This is fun. I have fun every Friday doing this. And I get the luxury of working with and talking to some great people over the 5.5 years. Some are local to me, some are national and international. But today we have a New Jersey mortgage genius. Her name is Pinky Shah. She is with Neo Home Loans. And welcome. Thanks so much for coming on. We're going to talk about, you and what you want to bring to people as you keep doing it. So welcome, Pinky.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave, and congratulations on that amazing record of having this show for so very long. I'm honored to be here and be a part of this great legacy you're building.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we're going to get started in a minute. And Nelson, go to the videotape. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. So, Pinky, I talked about your genius and everything really quickly, and I just want to read a little bit about you. I mean, your life's purpose is to be a shining light who does magical things to inspire greatness in others. Generational wealth for your clients, using different strategies, with different things to do your business. And it's really exciting to have you on here because we met through a mutual friend, Shivani Peterson, who is out in Reno, Nevada, who's been on the broadcast, who I met through Instagram. And social media and the power of it is why we're together today. So thanks so much for coming on today. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, so grateful. And it's amazing how worlds, social media opens up. There's a lot of vices with it, but it certainly opens up a lot of opportunities and ways to connect with people that you may not have met otherwise. So I love it for that reason.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, look, I've been involved in it since its infancy, and Facebook ads 15 years ago and video for 15 years and all that stuff. And it's just amazing how it has become such a necessary part of our lives. I was going to say necessary evil, and it also can be that as well. But enough of that. Let's talk about Pinky Shah. Tell me where you came from, because you didn't start coming out of school wanting to be a loan officer. Talk to me about your past, where you came from, and why you're here today.
Thank you. Okay. So the journey, I guess I'll start the journey way back when I was 10 years old.
There you go.
So I was 10. And for those of you that are from New Jersey, you can remember Route 22.
Yep.
So my mother, my brother, and I are driving down Route 22. And we're going in our light blue Ford Taurus station wagon, if you remember those.
Yep.
And we're on our way to Children's Specialized Hospital. And we're headed there because my brother has cerebral palsy and he gets outpatient therapy there. So we're headed there. And this is a memory of mine because we did this often. And what happens is, so my brother has cerebral palsy, can't walk, can't do a lot of things in his life. Yet my brother is always worried about everybody else, always thinking about how everyone else is doing, even to the point where he'd get candy. Remember how we get candy in school? He'd bring it home and I got to pick first what I wanted before he would have any.
Wow.
And to the point of, I got to pick the family meals, the games that we played. The only thing I never got control over, Dave, is that TV remote control.
Oh, wow.
Everything else, he had a very giving heart and was always smiling. And so fast forward, and he's in his early 30s. And unfortunately, he's in the hospital for months at a time at this point.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. And so my brother has, as I said, months at a time. And we had this unspoken rule in my family that he was never to be left alone in the hospital. So between my mother, my father, myself, and my husband, we took turns to always be there with him. And I would often go right after work. And I would go there after work. And at some point he gets intubated and he can't even speak or eat. But he asked me when I come home from work, when I not come home, but come to the hospital, which felt like home after a while. to go see him, he would say, "How was your day? And did you eat yet?" Even though he couldn't eat at all.
Mm-hmm.
So he always had this way of just putting everybody else before him and just really caring and giving. And unfortunately, in 2005, after a lot of battle with a lot of different struggles in his life, we lost him.
That's hard.
Thank you. And the reason I share that is because that's a huge part of why I am who I am today, right? And
Right.
that led me into serving the way that I serve, of putting other people first, of really being a source of trying to bring positivity to people and thinking about others. And the way it translates, and then if I fast forward, right, I went to pharmacy school, got my doctorate in pharmacy at Rutgers University, right here, Jersey girl through and through. and so I got my doctorate. I worked at Johnson & Johnson. And again, I'm pregnant now, and it's time to make a decision on what to do. I joined my father, who owned a mortgage brokerage, and joined the mortgage business. And I did both part-time for a number of years. And then moved forward again. And my kids are now fully grown. And it's time to make a decision, because I realized that I was never made for part-time anything, Dave. It was just, I've always been very career-driven, but it was the best opportunity. And I do not regret it for a minute, the time that I had with my children when they were younger. But it was time to make a decision. And I decided to go all in on the mortgage front, because I just loved the fulfillment that it gave me to really be a part of people's lives and to make a big difference in it, to be able to show up and give them hope, give them courage, and then to be able to accomplish things that they may not have thought possible. And even if they thought it was possible, it's still something that they've been planning for. So now we put that same care in serving our clients and our partners. And all of that is why I am where I am today.
That's a very heartfelt story. It's just really interesting. And our business is one where we can take it two ways, Pinky. We can take it where we're going to do the job, we're going to get the mortgage, we're going to get the buyer, get the seller, whatever. But that is really not what I try to coach and teach and mentor into agents. It's about, what we can do to help and get out of the head and stay into the heart. And that is truly one of the most important things in business to me. Now, you got into the business, you went full-time into the business after a while, and you had to make that decision. Talk to me about how you started and how everything drove you that way.
How I started in the business was, as I said, my father was a mortgage broker. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, and largely, again, driven by my experience of having my mother home when I was a child and seeing what my brother, had experienced, I knew that it was super important for me to be a very present mother. So that's why my father's, and I said, I can't keep doing what I'm doing, working the number of hours that I'm working right now, and out of the house all the time. So my father said, come work with me, right, in the mortgage business. And of course I was like, well, Dad, I'm a doctor of pharmacy. Like, that's not what I do.
Right.
But he said, just try it out. And I did. And so at the beginning, I started my career by simply just telling my family and friends. I sent out an email blast and told everybody that, hey, I'm in the mortgage business. I joined my father's business. If you need anything, let me know. And then I also, and this, I'll speak to, by the way, all the moms that are out there listening to this as well, right? Because trying to find, and single dads too, quite frankly, right? There's whoever is the taking care, primary caregiver of the children. It's a toss up, because you want to have your career, but you also want to be a really great parent. And it's a challenge to try and balance the two. I was really fortunate because I found the mortgage business, and it allowed me to be able to do both at the beginning. And I wasn't producing the way that I am right now at that time, right? I wasn't helping as many families as I'm helping, but I was helping some families. And the way I did it was simply by telling people, this is what I do. And then literally every conversation, it would just kind of come up organically. I still don't do any formal advertising. I wasn't on social media at the time in this way. So I didn't do anything, simply then tell people. And as you said, just really cared for whoever I had the opportunity to care for, and gave it 120%. And through that, they would refer other people to me.
Right. So, okay. So the kids are going to school. You say, okay, so I'm going to go into this full time. What was the first thing you did, or one of the first things that you did when you wanted to get into it full time and really find out what it was like to have a career in this business?
So one of the first things I started doing then was researching, because my only outlet, remember, we're a private brokerage, right? So we're not a huge entity. We're not a national company. It's my father, myself, and a couple of loan officers in the company. So that's my idea of what the mortgage world looked like at that time. I didn't have big company resources. I didn't have friends in the mortgage business aside from my father. I didn't have any of that at that time. So the first thing I started doing was just learning about the mortgage business in a way. And my father, amazing man, my role model in every single way. He taught me a lot about the business, but there was things that were different as the world was evolving, right? Internet was becoming a bigger thing now. So the world was evolving. And so I started doing some research and just finding online classes and learning about the mortgage business. And through that, as I was finding those opportunities, I discovered coaching. So, and then I, signed up for free classes online and started learning some things. And then through that, as I said, found out about a coaching organization. And then I said, that might be an interesting idea. So and supported fully by my husband, by the way, who already coached as in his line of work. So he was a big proponent of it. And I'd never done it before in my life. And seemed like a huge expense for someone who was only closing 1 or 2 loans a month, by the way, right? So it was a lot of apprehension about doing it. But I had a conversation and I knew immediately that this was going to be a worthwhile endeavor. And I will tell you, I will not be where I am today, Dave, if I had never started coaching, because I would not have known all that exists outside of my little world had I not opened my eyes to the possibility of coaching.
So what was the first thing that coaching did for you? It opened up your eyes as to what you needed to do, or it was just someone supporting you and holding you accountable? What was that all about? What was that feeling like? How did that change everything?
Oh man, Dave, we could take up the whole time talking about this. Just so you know, I'm super passionate about enlisting other people's help, right? Knowing where your strengths are and knowing where you need help, first of all, right? That's a huge thing that I'm super passionate about. And I encourage all entrepreneurs that I talk to really hone in on and finding help. And so the reason coaching, what it did for me at the beginning was, yes, it opened my eyes to things that I didn't even know existed, because again, I had a very narrow view of what the mortgage industry was like. So it opened my eyes, number one. Two, as you know very well, right? Business is 80% mindset and really only 20% strategy.
Right.
So my mindset was not where it is today. So coaching helped me see things in ways that I didn't ever think of looking at business, as far as the way that I showed up for clients, as the way that I showed up for myself, the way that I showed up for my family related to business, the way that I thought about strategies, the way that I thought about my clients.
Right.
And that's probably what we spent a lot. In hindsight, I can say this. I don't know that I knew it at the time, but in hindsight, I can tell you that that's what I needed the most help on at the beginning. And then it was also the strategies, because again, I didn't have any other outlets. I was still learning about the business because I only did it part-time. So then it was that once my mindset was in the right place, I was able to implement the strategies that they were sharing with me. And one of the things my coach said to me too early on, we'd probably been coaching for like 6 months already. And I was getting frustrated because I wasn't making progress. I was expecting it to be like, I was like, I flipped a switch. I'm paying you lots of thousands of dollars. I should get results like tomorrow.
Right.
I thought it was a magic pill that I took kind of thing, right? But it doesn't work that way. So if you've never been coached, I will tell you it does not work that way. It takes time. You have a huge role in playing in making this a success, right? And so I started about 6 months in. My coach said to me that I need to just listen to him. He said I was asking too many questions. And he didn't say it in a negative way. He said, you're really smart and you really want to understand everything, but you need to execute. And you're taking so long to execute because you're just trying to understand every little thing of it. Remember, I'm a scientist by education. So it was like a little bit of rewiring for me to not always think that I had to understand and analyze every little thing. So as we got through that, then I started implementing more.
Yeah, so you're what one might call an analytical, right? So it's really important for everybody to understand exactly what you just said. And I just want to just summarize a little bit. And coaching for everybody out there, coaching is not training. Okay, coaching takes what you already know and emphasizes the best parts of it. Is accountability in there? Yeah, it is. Is mentoring and training a little bit in there? Yes, it is. But the whole idea behind it, let's look at a National Football League football team, right? You get drafted or you come in, you already have experience, you already know how to play the game. But what they do is they take your skills and they mold them so
Yes.
to work as a team with everybody else. Similarly, in coaching for you, coaching for me, I've been very, very lucky to work with a lot of the greats over the years. What it is, it's all about taking what you know and fine tuning it. A lot of times with just questions about what you're doing, how you're doing, you were told to execute. And that is probably the number one thing that a lot of us have trouble with is the actual execution of the action steps that we said we have to do. Because when we do that, we're going to excel like crazy because we're analyzing everything, analysis paralysis, getting ready to get ready, all those little things and sayings that I can use. But if you're not executing, there's not a chance in hell that you're going to be ultra successful. Now, you might be successful, but you won't be where your potential really can take you. So, when you say that, 80% of his mindset, so true. You've got to get your mindset set so that you have a really good idea and that you can always grow. So in the beginning, you had to change your mindset and then you had to start executing. Talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. And some really good points you just made there, Dave, about how to think about coaching and how it can play a role in your life. So as far as mindset, so I'm a huge personal development person. I love learning. Since then, by the way, after this journey, I've learned and focused a lot on my personal development as well. And I come to learn that people have two main questions and fears in their life, right? The fear of not being enough and the fear of not being loved.
Yep.
And as I'm going through that, I'm learning that those are, and I'm thinking that I'm not one of those people, but it turns out I am, right? We all are. So we all are. And I had this fear that I wasn't enough in the mortgage business because it wasn't where I grew up. It wasn't what I trained in. It wasn't what I had learned. It wasn't where my education was. So I didn't always think that I can show up and be that best resource initially. And also, again, because of my focus on education, I always believed that if you had enough education, you can excel at anything. And so that's partly why I probably get as much education I do. I have a certified mortgage planning specialist. I'm a certified mortgage advisor. I study all the time and I learn all the time. And I do believe that it helps me serve my clients at a higher level because I do all this extra training.
Absolutely.
But it absolutely helps. And it allows you to show up stronger. But in the beginning, it was a little bit of a challenge for me because I didn't always think that I was worth, that I was always the best fit. And so if you don't believe that you're the best fit, well, it's going to come across and other people aren't going to believe you're the best fit.
So a lot of people call this fear of not being enough and not being what you need to be for your client. Some people call that imposter syndrome, right? I mean, getting on stage, for me, being asked to be on broadcasts and podcasts, it's like, oh, who, me? Right. But you have to have a confidence. And sometimes that mindset is hard to get there. How did you break through that?
Yeah, good question. And truth be told, we still have it every now and then, right? Like it still happens to me
every freaking
all
day.
the time. So it's not, you're done, like you've checked that box and I'm past it. It's a constant thing because hopefully, by the way, we keep getting invited to bigger stages. Right. And we keep, right? You may have gotten comfortable with this and now all of a sudden we're on the next opportunity and we keep having bigger opportunities being presented to us. So we can continually have to overcome this, I think. I don't think it's a one and done kind of thing.
Right.
So I do a whole lot of mindset work on a daily basis so that I can show up strong because I am a huge, huge proponent that your self-care determines how you show up for other people. So that's what I spend the most of my time on so that my mindset isn't great. So it starts with a solid morning routine.
So talk to me about your routine. I mean, I have a ritual that I go through and when I start talking about it, it's like I get people overwhelmed when I talk about what I do and how I do it because I'll be honest, there's a lot to what I do. I start at 4:15 in the morning. Talk to me about your ritual and how you got into it and what it did to help you progress.
Sure. Okay, and it's an evolving thing. So for anyone who doesn't have a morning ritual already and wants to start a morning ritual, start someplace is what I would say. I started getting up at 6. When I first started getting into realizing that I wanted to be a morning routine person, if you will, and have a morning ritual. I started at 6. And I will also tell you that to this day, I am not the kind of person that just pops out of bed and says, all right, let's go. Like I need my alarm. Okay. I need an alarm. And every single day, Dave, I want to snooze. Right.
Oh man.
So it's not like I've ever gotten past that, but because I know of the benefits of it, I still get up, right? And I still do it. And so my morning ritual, it's evolved, but where it is now is I follow the Miracle Morning. If anyone has read that book,
Yep,
it's a great
yep.
book. Hal
I'm just gonna
Elrod.
look for it on my shelf,
Yeah.
but it take me too long to find it. It's here somewhere.
Right. And there's one for real estate agents, a specific one, and there's one
Yes, there
millionaires
is.
version. And then there's the 5 a.m. club, if you haven't read that one, right? So there's no shortage of resources to help you think about a morning routine. So what I do is for me, it starts with meditation, because I believe you've got to really work on your mind. So I start with meditation. And again, for me, meditation has been a growing thing. I still feel like there's a lot for me to really get better at when it comes to meditation. And if you ask me, I'd still tell you I'm not good at it, but I still do it. And then I journal. And when I journal, I also write my affirmations as I do that. And then I exercise. Exercise, I think, is super important. So I exercise anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes in the mornings. And if you don't have that kind of time, you can also just start by doing 10 minutes, some sort of physical activity. And then I read. And I read nonfiction, by the way, not just a trashy novel kind of thing, right? But I'm reading something that will help improve my learning and my ability to show up as a better leader, as a better human being.
Yeah, there's a lot of
routine.
There's a lot of books out there that are daily journals where it has a date and you read that one day. I have 4 of those.
Yeah, there you go. And then it starts with also, you mentioned that reminds me, Dave. I also start, so the minute I do wake up, and as soon as I get past that quick, I want to snooze again thought, part of how I get myself past that, by the way, is because I wake up and I was like, oh, I want to go back to sleep. I'm like, oh my God, you're so lucky to be awake right now. You're so lucky to be alive right now. And then as I get myself out of bed, it's like, you're so lucky and fortunate to be able to take your steps right now and to be healthy, to be able to do this, to have the opportunity to have a morning routine. So gratitude, like all through my morning helps me get out of bed. Because when I think about that, I'm no longer wishing for something I didn't have, and I'm grateful for what I do have.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important. I mean, gratitude, it can be one thing, it can be 10 things, it can be, anything that you have that you're grateful for, or something you're working on. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then I have this document that my coach, Jonathan Roach, huge shout out to him. He has helped me develop this ritual called the Declarations to Thrive. So my Declarations to Thrive, I meant to have it on hand with me. They are awesome because what they do is they allow me to be grounded and reminded of why I'm showing up here. And I have a copy right here. I have it all over my house. It's everywhere. But I read it while I'm brushing my teeth in the morning. So that inspires me then, because on my Declarations to Thrive, it has my top 3 priorities in my life. It has my inner beliefs that make me unstoppable. It has my insanely big life goals. It has my ultimate relationship vision with my husband. It has my 8 rules to thrive and to live. It has quotes that I care about. And it has pictures that inspire me. In my case, it's my family. So that I read in the mornings as I'm brushing my teeth, and I read again when I brush again at night. And I try to read at midday too, which is why it's right here at my desk.
Yeah, it's so important to have that kind of support. And what you're doing is you're supporting yourself, because you're supporting yourself for what you believe in and what you are and who you are and why you do what you do every day. It's just, I mean, people have this thing about, like we said, not being good enough, not being loved, all this other stuff. And unless you you look at it, and I'm not going to ask anyone watching this broadcast now or later to think about it in a bad way. Just think about it. Just look at it this way, right? So the past is the past, the future is the future, but we only have today to get going. And that is one way for you. If you don't like getting up early, you say snooze, right? So yeah, I truth be told, I hit the snooze button this morning. 30 seconds later, I'm up, but still, I have my sleeping issues, right? My mind starts thinking and stuff. But when you think about gratitude during your sleep, or you think about gratitude during the day, it is really a great thing to move you forward. You've got your declaration to thrive. I love that. I mean, I think that's something that everybody should have. And it's just, it helps you show up in a better way every day for the people that are important to you. And the people that are important to you are not only your family, but it's the people you're helping. Talk to me, we've talked about mindset. We've talked about how you get yourself going. I want to talk about you and your business and what you do differently. And, as the team leader at Neo Home Loans and doing what you do, talk to me about that.
Yeah. So our goal is pretty simple, Dave. We're just trying to change the mortgage industry.
Okay. So that's pretty simple. Yeah.
Pretty simple.
So that's what I want to talk about, is because this is very interesting. And the things I've read about you and the things we talked about, talk to me about changing the mortgage industry and what you're doing and how you're doing it.
So I'm fortunate enough to be at Neo Home Loans, which I joined earlier this year. And the reason I did is because I was trying to change in my own little world where I was before. And now I'm at this company where every single individual wants to do the same thing. And what I mean by change the mortgage industry is folks currently expect that their mortgage lender will help them when they find a house, get a mortgage, and get them to closing.
Right.
Yes, we do that. But there's so much more that as mortgage lenders, we have the ability to do for our clients. The average person does not have a financial planner. They don't have an accountant. They don't have resources to think beyond just buying a house, if you will. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but that's the standard, right?
Right.
And the average person is focused on earning income, not necessarily making their money grow for them. So they don't have resources. And so we get to be here when somebody buys a house, they're making a huge decision to significantly impact their net worth. It's a big deal. People that are homeowners have significantly more net worth than people that don't own homes. There's tons of studies that show that.
100%.
So if you've engaged with us and you don't have the other resources, yes, you're significantly impacting your net worth, but there's more that could be done. And if you're just working with a lender who's only focused on just getting you from point A to point B in a transaction, we're missing a huge opportunity to really change people's lives.
That's correct.
So because we have been given access to their financial information, we can then help understand by asking more questions up front. So we start our, typically most people will send you to a website or something to complete an application, do a pre-approval, send it to you, say, go find a house, come back. All right, great. Here's how you go through it. Done. Move on. Next. Would you agree, Dave, that that's typically
100%. They're going to make sure that you've got these. Give me these documents. Give me that. Right. Confirm this. All this other stuff. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be the paper pushers for you.
Right. Exactly. But again, as a certified mortgage advisor, certified mortgage specialist, and as somebody who focuses on understanding the markets and all those things, I can add more value to my clients' lives. And it would be a miss if I wasn't doing more for them. So we starting with a dreams and goals calls with our clients. So it starts the conversation with that. So tell me what's important to you. What are you scared about? Why do you even want to buy a house, right? Is there anything you want to improve in your finances? What are your long-term goals? Are you going to have to care for your parents? Are we going to have to save money for your kids' college education? What are all those other things? Do you have life insurance already? Because when you own a home, like God forbid you were to buy a house and one of you passed away and the income producer was the one that passed, the other person's going to be stuck. And although it's not my responsibility, because I know about it, I feel like it is my responsibility to make sure they know about this.
Right.
So by asking all those questions up front, we can then help them have a proper plan and guide them into creating the right strategy in which to use to buy a home. So they spend their time also, by the way, looking at the right houses and not putting offers on homes and then finding out afterwards they don't qualify or that they're not comfortable with the numbers. That's also a colossal waste of everybody's time and emotional energy.
So how does that happen when they find out they got a pre-qual or a pre-approval and then they don't qualify? Talk to me about that. Does that happen often, and why would that happen?
Well, thankfully, it doesn't happen ever with us because we do the work up front, but it does happen. And we've had people come to us where that's happened. And it happens because unfortunately they're working either the buyer or sometimes the lender, right? Both of them. A lot of times buyers don't want to do all that work up front. They think they know and they're okay. And they just want to go ahead and say, just give me something. They don't want to, I'll do the work when I find a house.
Exactly.
And so sometimes the buyers say that, and sometimes it's the lender who says that, right? Because we don't get paid for all that work up front. A little dirty secret of the industry, right? We only get paid when a loan closes. So that's why most people only want to work on them when they know that they're going to get some commission at the end of it. So, but if you don't do that, then you have problems like this. And seriously, the amount of emotional destruction, if you will, that it causes to people when they think they can buy a house and they can't. It's really, it can, families can get really emotionally upset about it and fighting between families. I'm a happy person. I like to make people happy. I like everyone to be happy. So if we do all this, when we prepare ahead of time, everyone gets to be happy.
See, it's really, it's I've seen it so much as you have, and that's why we're talking about it now. And where people don't really understand that the preparation for buying a house, preparation, everything that the right people you're going to use. And that's one of the things that attracted me to you is when we had a conversation was what you talked about, how you talked about, and the passion you want to help people grow themselves, not only in buying a house and doing a loan with you, but also generational wealth and focusing on the education of what they're doing. And also being proactive in communications. Now, that we can say that about a lot of things and a lot of individuals, but you know what, with the dreams and goals call, I mean, real estate agents could do that as well, but you're going into it, you're digging into the, let's call it nitty gritty of what their goals and dreams are. Do you often get pushback from clients from that?
I'll share a story with you that just happened yesterday, I think, as a matter of fact. So my loan partner, she answered the phone and they said, we have 2 questions. And they said, okay, wonderful. These are great questions. I'd like to set up a meeting with Pinky for you to go through all these things. It was for the dreams and goals call. And they said, really, I just need answers to 2. Do we need a full meeting? And she explained why we needed the meeting. And they took the meeting and we had a Zoom call. And in it, he said again, he's like, I just have 2 questions. I said, great, tell me those 2 questions. And then I said, I need to ask you a few questions before I can answer your 2 questions well. So we went through all of it. His wife joined on 7 minutes later and he said, this is Pinky. I was just telling her, she still hasn't answered my questions, by the way, he tells her. And then we get through it and I answer his questions. And I said, do you see why my answer is probably different now after I asked you all your questions than it would have been if I had just answered them straight up the way that you asked me them? And he said, yes. And Dave, he went on and he called our office later in the day and spoke to Christy on my team and said, I just wanted to thank you for really pushing me to have that meeting because it was such a valuable conversation and we really got a lot out of it. So yes, we get pushback.
The hard part is, and I know that when I want to buy something or I'm looking at something, I'm a real pain in the ass, right? Because I say, cut to the chase. What do you got? What's the numbers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And I probably would be your worst customer, right? Is there a manner which to get through that? And this will help both loan officers and real estate agents. Is there a manner which you use to get through that, or is it just pounding the questions? And I use pounding in a nice way. I don't mean being pejorative with the questions or belligerent. I'm saying, is that the process that you use just to keep asking the questions?
Well, so I think it starts with framing, explaining why I'm asking questions, which I did to them, right? I said, listen, my goal is not to just show up here and be an order taker. I can do that for you, but that's not what serves you best.
Right.
I have 20 years of experience in this business. I've got all this additional training. I can offer more than what you're used to being offered by somebody in my profession. Because remember, we're trying to change the mortgage industry. So people don't expect us to show up the way that we do. So I have to help set that stage for them. And I tell them that our goal is that we are here to help you make smarter, informed, educated decisions as you go along and to grow your generational wealth. And to do that, I'd like to ask you some questions before we get started. And so I set that stage. And so 9 out of 10 people are like, say, wonderful. Okay, I get it. Let's go into it. And there's going to, maybe 8 out of 10, I'm not sure exactly, but, and then there's a small percentage that don't. So the other thing that I've come to learn is that we're not always going to be the right fit for everybody, right? I want to be, I made a mistake early in my career that I wanted to be all things to all people. But what I've come to learn is that I want to be the right things to the right people. It's every single person doesn't want the level of service that we have, and that's okay. Right. And that's perfectly fine. But if they want it, then we're here to provide it. And we want to give 120% to everyone that commits to wanting to work with us. And we want to serve them really well. But if they don't really want it, I don't need to push it on them, because then I can find somebody who, I'm not here to pull people in. I mean, I'm not to convince people to use us. If they see, we'll demonstrate the value, and if it's valuable, then we'd love to help them.
See, the important part is demonstrating value, and you do that. The dreams and goals call, I'm gonna really gonna stick with it. And the thing is that you're asking questions of them. And basically, guys, we all have to understand that these questions are not meant to just to do them. They're meant to really get involved in what they want and how they're doing, so we help them self-discover exactly more reasons of what they're doing. It's just like a buyer consultation where you're asking them about, what do they want in a house and everything else. I mean, that's the easy part. The hard part is to ask the questions about, the reasoning. We're not going to ask why, but we're going to ask questions. Okay, so this is important to you. Explain that to me. Some people, like, for instance, I'll give an example, right? And then you can give me one. Some people say, well, what do you want in a house? So I want a big yard. Okay. Is that big yard, is that fenced in? Does that have a pool? We don't know what a big yard means to what everybody's saying. We don't know. A big yard could be a place where the dog can go out, do his business, and come back inside. And that could be 10 by 10, right? So it's a similar thing where we need to understand what their answers are. And the only way to do that is by asking questions. Would you agree with that?
I 100% or 1,000% agree with that, Dave. It's so important. If we don't take the time to understand, and I don't think any good professional should be an order taker. You are a specialist in your area. If you're a real estate agent, that's what you're good. You know your inventory, you know your product, you know it's available, and you know how to match things. So, but if you're not asking questions like the ones that you just described, Dave, then how can you really guide them? Maybe they think they want a big yard, but maybe you come to learn that the reason they wanted the big yard is really just because they want a place to run their dog, as you said, and maybe there's a dog park right next to a house that might so maybe a house that has a dog park right next to it may have worked.
Right.
So we don't know those things unless we ask the whys.
Right. And it's you use the phrase that I haven't been using for years, since the early 2000s, order takers, right? And we've gotten to that position where this business, yours and mine, have gotten more difficult over the past couple of years, because we found that the order taking that we did, and yes, it was order taking in 2020, 2021, up to a little bit of the beginning of 22. We were going there, and if they had a pulse and they had money and they could get a mortgage, they would buy a house. It didn't matter how much, they would just do it. Now that kind of stuff is not really going on. You really need to show your value. You really need to work. Some people say 2, 3, 4 times harder than you worked in 2021 and the beginning of 22. I'm going to tell you that work that you're doing now is what we did in 2000, is what we did in 2010, is what we did in 2015. But there seemed to be some people forgot. Some people got into this business, yours and mine, where they didn't get taught that because they didn't have to. And the other people that might be struggling in our businesses forgot what they had to do, and they got used to the ease of it. And they had to worry about a COVID form getting signed. That was the new thing they had to get done. Well, we ain't got no more COVID forms, thank God. And the whole thing here is, you know what? We got to care more. We got to go more into the heart and soul of that buyer or that seller or whatever it is. It's no longer sell, sell, sell. Like, hey, can I help you? No, I'm just browsing. No, it's not that anymore. It's, they say, hey, can I help you? So just want you to know that the TVs are set for sale over here. Go into any Walmart and you'll find out what sales really is and how they really treat the customer like they matter. And they do. I'm sorry, I went on there for a little bit, but
no, it's great. It's great. I'll just add on to
yeah, please do.
Our soapbox that we're both on here, right? and add to it and say that it's about adding long-term value, right? I think as an industry, yours and ours, I'm going to collectively put them together.
Yes.
We both need to show up adding more value. There are options that they don't need you to let them in the door anymore as a real estate agent, right? They don't need you to sell their house anymore necessarily. They have other options. So if you're not showing up, adding more value through education, short-term and long-term, then, at some point, it may not be the right business for you if you can't figure out a way to do that. I'm going to say really, not a little harshly, but truthfully, right? Because I think that's coming. And so really, how are you adding more long-term value is what you really have to think about. How are you showing up, doing more than something a computer can do to really be a resource for the people that you're helping? And Dave, I know we talked about the dreams and goals call, but I'm going to pivot a little bit when we talk about the long-term value. We also do annual financial reviews for our clients. So even after they've bought their home, we are doing an annual financial review for them. We are giving them a home concierge service. I have a client success manager who calls them for a post-closing call, a 3-month call, a 6-month call, and then every single year. And then we give them a wealth digest. We do home concierge service. We do all of these things that are not about marketing me, by the way. These are things that are about adding value to our clients' lives. And as we show up and we add value to our clients' lives, they obviously think of us more, right? It's a win-win. We get to feel good about the work we're doing, knowing we're making a difference, and they become raving fans of ours. It's a really simple formula.
And I'm going to give I'm going to simplify it even more. I mean, aside from the attention that you're giving them, which is what everybody should be doing with every client, we have to understand that we're not doing I statements. I is nowhere to be found in anything we're doing, because if we're making statements, it's about us. Yeah. If we're asking questions, it's about them. It's really simple. If you remember that rule of thumb, your business is going to excel. And you have to, you also got to care, right? We're running up on time here. We both have hard stops. A couple of things really quickly. If you were a new loan officer, if you were a new realtor, what would be the first thing you would suggest that they do?
I would probably say the first things you should do is align yourself with a group of people that inspire you and that motivate you and that you want to emulate if you're new in the business. And number 2, talk less, listen more.
Absolutely. And one of the things I forgot in the beginning of the broadcast is this is called Real Estate Talk TGIF. I didn't ask you the main questions to start the day with. So I'm going to end it here with a couple of quick questions and a statement. What does TGIF stand for you? Or for me? Or for this?
Usually it's thank goodness it's Friday.
Right. I'm going to say you're close, but when it comes to the broadcast, it's thank God it's Fanale. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. I usually start with it and I forgot. I got 2 real quick things. Everybody, so just understand that Pinky's contact information is on the screen right now. At Pinky Mortgage is her Instagram, and her phone number and website are right there as well. How do I, Dave Fanale, help you grow your business?
Oh, thank you, Dave. Just keep spreading the word about how we can all show up and be more for our clients. That's it.
Awesome. That's great. And I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Where's my hat?
Oh.
Ah.
Well, as you know, it's the end of the broadcast, and we talk about the hat at that time. You knew you were coming on today and you wanted to get the hat. You'll learn that from Shivani. So here's the hat. It's coming out to you soon. Next week, we have another special guest by the name of David Brook, founder of Brook Group Real Estate. If you want to find out about the 188 things you need to do to help your buyers and sellers, David's going to hit that with his process. But anyway, hey, look, Pinky, thank you so much for coming on. Just stay on for a quick second, everybody. We'll see everybody next week, and we're off. Hey.